If you understand English but freeze when you try to speak, this episode is for you. Many learners quietly carry this frustration for years. They read well, they listen well, they even think they know English. Yet when the moment comes to speak, everything feels blocked. This is not a personal failure, it is a learning pattern problem, and patterns can be changed calmly and intelligently.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Borey, and I want to say something important right at the beginning. If English has ever made you feel small, slow, or incapable, that feeling does not come from your ability. It comes from the way English was introduced to you. Today, we are not fixing mistakes. We are rebuilding how English lives in your mind.
I'm Vantha, and I want you to listen closely to this idea. Language is not a subject. Language is a behavior, and behaviors grow through repetition, comfort, and emotional safety. You do not become fluent by collecting more information. You become fluent by creating conditions where your brain feels safe enough to use what it already knows.
Most adult learners were trained to treat English like a test. Every sentence feels judged. Every pause feels embarrassing. Over time, the brain learns to associate speaking English with danger. When that happens, the mind shuts down access to language. That is why people say, "I know the word, but I can't say it."
This episode begins with a simple reset. We are removing urgency. We are removing pressure. We are removing the belief that improvement must be dramatic or fast. Instead, we are introducing something far more effective: daily, low-pressure contact with English that feels manageable and human.
When learners hear 15 minutes a day, many think it sounds too small to matter, but cognitive science tells us the opposite. The brain prefers frequent, gentle exposure over rare, intense effort. 15 minutes tells the nervous system, this is safe, this is normal, this belongs in my life.
Think about how habits actually form. They form when the action feels easy enough to repeat without resistance. When English feels heavy, you avoid it. When English feels light, you return to it naturally. Fluency grows in return visits, not heroic study sessions.
Another important truth is that progress does not feel exciting most days. Real learning is quiet. It happens beneath awareness. That is why learners often give up, not because nothing is happening, but because they expect progress to feel loud and obvious.
I want to speak directly to those of you who feel disappointed in yourselves. You might think you lack discipline or motivation. In reality, your learning system has been overloaded. This podcast exists to simplify that system and bring it back into balance.
15 minutes a day is not about doing everything. It is about doing something consistently. During those minutes, you're training listening rhythm, sentence patterns, and emotional comfort. These are the foundations of speech, and they cannot be rushed.
When learners focus too much on grammar accuracy, they often block fluency. Grammar knowledge is useful, but speaking is a motor skill. You must allow imperfect movement before smooth movement appears. Silence, not mistakes, is the real enemy of fluency.
That is why our approach is slow, natural, and conversational. We are not trying to impress anyone. We are training your brain to stay relaxed while English flows through it. Relaxation is not laziness. It is a learning strategy.
Many people ask, when will I feel confident? Confidence does not come first. Comfort comes first. Confidence is a side effect of repeated comfort. When English no longer feels threatening, confidence appears quietly, without effort.
If you listen to English every day, even briefly, your brain begins to predict language. Prediction is the key to fluency. When your brain predicts, words arrive faster, sentences feel familiar, and hesitation decreases naturally.
This is why long breaks are damaging, not because you forget everything, but because the brain loses rhythm. 15 minutes keeps rhythm alive. It keeps English present in your nervous system.
I also want to emphasize that this process is personal. You do not need to compare yourself to others. Language growth is not linear, and comparison only creates unnecessary stress. Your only task is to show up briefly and regularly.
Over time, something interesting happens. English stops feeling like an activity and starts feeling like a space you can enter. You recognize expressions, you anticipate meaning, you feel less urgency to translate.
That shift is subtle, but it is powerful. It is the moment when English becomes usable rather than theoretical.
In this podcast, we treat listening as active participation. Even when you're silent, your brain is working. It is mapping sound to meaning, tone to intention. Speaking will come as a result, not a requirement.
Many advanced learners underestimate the value of listening, but listening is where fluency is built. Speaking is simply listening expressed outward.
So if you ever feel like you're not doing enough, remember this. 15 minutes of calm exposure is far more valuable than 1 hour of stressed study. Nothing complicated, nothing dramatic, just clear, steady movement forward.
You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be to begin again, properly this time.
Stay with us. This is not about changing your English overnight. It is about changing how English feels, and that changes everything. In this chapter, we go deeper into what actually blocks speaking. Not vocabulary, not grammar, but mental interference. Many learners believe they cannot speak because they do not know enough English. In reality, they know far more than they can access. The problem is not absence of language. The problem is interruption. Thoughts interrupt speech before speech has a chance to form.
This interruption usually sounds like self-monitoring. Learners check their grammar while speaking. They evaluate pronunciation while forming a sentence. They question word choice before finishing an idea. All of this happens in milliseconds, but it is enough to shut the system down. Native speakers do not speak perfectly. They speak continuously.
Language production requires forward motion. When you stop to analyze mid-sentence, you break that motion. The brain is not designed to edit and produce at the same time. Editing belongs after speech, not during it. When learners understand this, they stop blaming themselves and start adjusting their process.
This is why children become fluent without grammar lessons. They speak freely first. Accuracy arrives later. Adults reverse this order and wonder why fluency never comes. The solution is not to abandon correctness, but to delay it.
Delayed correction is not carelessness, it is neurological efficiency. The speaking brain needs speed and safety. Accuracy improves only after speech becomes stable. This is a principle used in interpreter training and advanced language acquisition research.
Another powerful idea is that speaking is not word-by-word construction, it is chunk-based. Native speakers retrieve phrases, not individual words. When learners try to assemble sentences from scratch every time, they overload working memory.
This is why listening repeatedly to natural conversations matters so much. Your brain begins to store chunks. Expressions like, that makes sense, or I'm not sure about that, or it depends on the situation, become automatic. Automaticity is fluency.
15 minutes a day is enough to build this chunk inventory if the listening is focused and relaxed. You are not memorizing, you are absorbing patterns.
Another barrier we must address is emotional memory. Many learners associate English with embarrassment. A teacher corrected them harshly, a class laughed, a conversation failed. The brain remembers these moments and tries to protect you by avoiding speech.
Avoidance feels safe short-term, but it freezes progress long-term. The way forward is gentle re-exposure in a non-threatening environment. That is what this podcast provides.
When you listen daily to calm, respectful English, your emotional association begins to change. English stops triggering fear and starts feeling neutral. Neutrality is the doorway to confidence.
Some learners expect confidence to arrive before speaking. In reality, confidence is built through surviving small speaking moments successfully. Even silent participation counts as survival.
There's also a misunderstanding about thinking in English. Many people believe they must force themselves to think in English all the time. This creates tension. Thinking in English is not a command. It is a result of familiarity.
When input becomes familiar, the brain naturally stops translating. Translation is not a habit, it's a coping mechanism. When English feels predictable, translation fades without effort.
That is why slow, clear input is powerful. Speed does not train fluency. Comprehension trains fluency. Once comprehension is strong, speed follows naturally.
Another mistake learners make is waiting until they feel ready to speak. Readiness is not a feeling, it's a threshold crossed through repetition.
In fact, most learners are ready long before they believe they are. Their hesitation comes from perfectionism, not inability.
Perfectionism is often disguised as seriousness. Learners say they want to speak correctly, but what they really fear is sounding imperfect. Native speakers sound imperfect constantly.
Fluency is tolerance for imperfection while continuing to communicate. That tolerance must be trained deliberately.
This is why short daily exposure works better than long weekly sessions. It trains tolerance gradually. The brain learns that nothing bad happens when English appears.
Over time, you begin to notice something subtle. You respond faster. You hesitate less. You stop searching for words so desperately. These are signs of internal restructuring.
At this stage, learners often underestimate their progress because it feels ordinary, but ordinary use is the goal. Fluency is boring in the best way.
Another important element is voice identity. Many learners feel disconnected from their English voice. It doesn't feel like them. This discomfort creates resistance.
The solution is not imitation, but ownership. You are not trying to sound like a native speaker. You are becoming a clear English speaker with your own rhythm.
Listening to diverse accents helps with this. It teaches the brain that English has many valid sounds and styles.
This reduces pressure and increases flexibility.
As your daily practice continues, English shifts from an external task to an internal resource. You begin to think less about English and more with English.
That transition is quiet, but once it happens, progress accelerates.
This is why patience is not passive, it is strategic. You are allowing deep changes to occur.
If you stay consistent, speaking stops feeling like a performance and starts feeling like participation.
In the next chapter, we will focus on how to turn listening comfort into active speaking without stress, forcing, or embarrassment.
You are building something real here. Not tricks, not motivation, a foundation.
And foundations, once set, support everything that comes after.
You know, many learners feel frustrated because they study for hours but see little progress. The truth is, the brain absorbs language best in consistent, small doses. Even 15 minutes a day, if used strategically, can create powerful improvement over time. The key is focus, repetition, and doing activities that engage speaking, listening, and thinking simultaneously.
Exactly. 15 minutes may sound short, but it's incredibly effective when structured correctly. You can divide this time into small, purposeful tasks. 5 minutes listening to a short story or dialogue, 5 minutes repeating or shadowing, and 5 minutes speaking or summarizing in your own words. Each segment trains your brain differently, and over time, these tiny exercises compound into fluent, natural English.
Another point to consider is the type of content you choose. Instead of random sentences or memorizing lists, focus on material that you would actually use in daily life. For example, read a short article about food, sports, or current events. Then speak about it as it explaining to a friend. This way, you're learning vocabulary, sentence structures, and real conversational patterns all at once, which accelerates fluency.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of self-correction. While you speak, listen carefully to yourself and notice pronunciation, rhythm, and word choice. If you hear a mistake, pause, correct it, and repeat the sentence. This method strengthens your mental map of English and trains your brain to automatically produce correct structures in real conversations. It's like having a personal English coach every day.
I also recommend integrating thinking in English into your 15-minute practice. Before you speak, take a moment to think, How would I describe this situation in English? Then express it. This trains your brain to form thoughts directly in English rather than translating from your native language. Over weeks, this becomes automatic, and speaking starts to feel natural, confident, and effortless.
And here's a crucial point. Variety matters. If you repeat the same activity every day, your brain may plateau. Change topics, change sources, change formats. Today, shadow a podcast dialogue. Tomorrow, describe your morning routine. The next day, summarize a news article. This keeps your brain alert, your memory sharp, and your speaking flexible. Variety is the engine of long-term progress.
Let's model a short practice example. Imagine you read a news story about climate change. Spend 5 minutes summarizing it aloud. Today, I read about climate change. Scientists say global temperatures are rising. People are planting more trees to reduce carbon. I think this is very important because it affects everyone. We should try to protect our planet every day. Each sentence reinforces vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation.
And while practicing, don't rush. Speak slowly, clearly, and thoughtfully. 15 minutes of intentional, mindful practice is far more valuable than an hour of distracted, unfocused study. Your brain absorbs clarity better than speed. Accuracy, rhythm, and comprehension are the real drivers of fluency.
Another tip is to record yourself. Listening back allows you to notice mistakes, monitor progress, and adjust your pronunciation. Even minor corrections matter. Over time, your spoken English becomes smoother, more natural, and much closer to what native speakers would say. Recording is like having a personal English coach every day.
And finally, let's talk about motivation. 15 minutes a day may seem small, but the results compound exponentially. Every day you practice, your confidence grows. Every day you speak, your brain reinforces English patterns. You're not just memorizing words, you're training your mind to think, respond, and interact in English naturally. Small steps create massive long-term impact.
So, to summarize, a 15-minute daily routine should include focused listening, careful shadowing, expressive speaking, self-correction, and reflection. Keep content relevant to daily life, vary your topics, think in English before speaking, record yourself, and stay consistent. This method is evidence-based, practical, and used by professional learners around the world to achieve real fluency.
Remember, the most important element is consistency. Even 15 minutes per day done with intention builds a strong foundation. Over weeks, you will notice faster comprehension, more automatic speech, and a stronger ability to communicate naturally in English. Think of it as a small daily investment that pays off tremendously over time.
And finally, celebrate small victories. Each time you speak a full sentence correctly, each time you remember a word without translating, each time you express a thought clearly, acknowledge it. Positive reinforcement strengthens learning and makes practicing English something you look forward to rather than a chore.
That wraps up our discussion for this chapter. Apply these strategies every day and you will see the difference in just a few weeks. Your brain will learn to process English directly, your confidence will soar, and your fluency will improve steadily. 15 minutes is enough, if used wisely.
Thank you for joining us today. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and remember, English is a skill you build step by step. Consistency, focus, and reflection are your best allies. We'll see you in the next episode, ready for more tips, more examples, and more natural English conversation practice.